We're live. All right, let's just wait a couple of seconds for peeps to come on, and then we will get going. Let's just keep everything up and running just in case there are any problems, because you never know with live broadcasts. So if you guys are coming on, here is the thing. Sometimes YouTube can be a little glitchy and I won't be able to see your messages in the group chat. So with that being said, if there is an emergency, if you can't see something I'm doing, if I'm freezing, something like that, I have my Facebook open. So feel free to just message me if you need me be, if it's super, like, oh, I can't hear or whatever. Just let me know. For some reason, I don't know if you guys can see me. Like, I could type and see it, but for some reason, it won't let me see what you guys are typing. Doesn't make sense. I tried doing it this morning, and it was glitching out a little bit. So with that being said, we're just going to roll with the punches, to be honest with you. And like I said, if there's anything major going on, in instance to you can't hear me, you can't see me, something is happening, I will be checking my Facebook throughout this just to make sure that there are no issues. Also, I will be doing a 10-minute Q&A on Facebook Live in our Facebook group, the private one, right? The Pebble Rebel Masterclass. So if you have any questions of some sort, hopefully you guys are definitely gonna have questions. I'm gonna go live on there right after this. To be honest with you, I think that the Q&A is more important than the actual information. I mean, of course, the information that I'm going to be giving you is super duper important, but I think where you're going to learn the most is seeing the information and then asking questions about it. So I will be going live on Facebook in our group, in the Pebble Rebel Masterclass, in there. So any questions that you have, let me know. Yeah. And you will be receiving I have slides as well. You will be receiving the slides after this masterclass. So with that being said, before we get started, of course, we have to do a little bit of just dance it out, because it is Saturday. So let's just dance it out real quick, and then we'll go from there. I'm feeling like we just need to. I can't see you, but hopefully you could see me. Just dance it out. Dance it out. Shoulder shake. I hope you're dancing with me. I hope you're dancing with me. Oh, I can't. All right. We got it. Okay, now that we got all of that out of the way, just, shake it out. Get ready to learn. If you have some coffee, grab some coffee, get a pen and paper. I want you to have fun. This is a lot of information, but really valuable information. So if you're ready, let's do it. And like I said, any issues that you're having, feel free to inbox me, because I'm not going to be able to see the group chat. All right. So let's do it, my friends. So excited. Okay. Okay. Let's just make sure that. Oh. That didn't look right. Okay, hold on one second. That did not look right. One second, my friends. Let's do Apple. There we go. I think we got it now. I think we got it now. Here we are. Okay. I was like, why isn't this working? All right. So let's get started. So storytelling and selling. I'm super excited to talk about this because I think first off, when it comes to selling, people are super duper nervous about it. And I think that in the industry that we're in, it's really hard to find a way that selling feels really great for you. And I think once you figure out that way, right? Once you figure out that way of like, okay, this feels right, you're just going to flourish with feeling like selling is fun. And I think the approach that a lot of people take is not attaching an emotion or a story to selling, right? So that's what we're going to be going over today is how to create a storyline, a brand story, almost like a step-by-step way of creating your story no matter what you're selling. So even if you sell products, or maybe you're a consultant, or maybe you're a VA, or maybe you're a coach, you're going to be able to take something away from this and apply this to videos, apply this to regular posts, Facebook, Instagram, all of that stuff. So with that being said, let's do it. So let's talk about humans, right? Let's talk about humans and why obviously why they're so important, right? We're all humans, and I want you to think about how we all have the same core emotions. Yes. Do we all sometimes believe in different things? Of course. You know, we all have different experiences, but at the same point, right? At the same point, at the end of the day, we all have the same core emotions. We still talk about people we know, like, and find useful, and we still store memories the same way. You know, once again, you could have different opinions about life, how you run your life, what you do, different jobs, whatever, but at the same time, we still store memories the same exact way. Now, why does this matter? Right? You're like, okay, I get it. We all have the same core emotions. We all laugh. We all cry. We all store memories the same way. But why does that matter? It matters because in order to get people to remember your business, you need to create a trigger or a pain point of some sort so they can connect and tell other people about your brand. Now, what I mean by that is you want to think about it in this respect, right? When I say trigger, I know trigger has a really negative connotation to it, but when I mean trigger in a bonding type of way. And I'll give you an example, and I have a video that I'll show you, but what I mean by this is, for example, and I'm sure all of you have heard the story from me, but I struggled with anorexia for a very long time. I was diagnosed with it at 12 years old, right? And it was a story that I was really nervous about talking about. Now, as you guys know, I am a social media and branding strategist, right? That anorexia doesn't really fit into the play, right? However, that became a story that people were able to really identify with me, like identify with what I went through, and they were able to create a bond, right? They were able, because we have the same core emotions, to connect with me, right? Even if you don't want to go into that extent of storytelling, you can even talk about when you went through something in your business. For instance, I had a situation where I had an investor not take me seriously because I am a woman, and he didn't think that I should be in business. That is something that a lot, because my demographic are women, that they would really identify with. So with that being said, I want to show you guys an example of this.
Let's talk about the science.
Ooh. So let me just stop the screen share really quick. And and let me show you this example, this video. So this is actually an ad. So we're just going to mute this ad really quick so I could get this up. Now, what I'm about to show you is, I don't know if any of you have ever watched the show Mad Men, right? Really great show. But the example that I'm showing you is a 2-part thing. It's about a minute. And what's so great about this clip is the first part of it, he doesn't tell the story. He literally is like, well, why do you want to know about me? And then the second part of the clip, he actually goes into storytelling. It's a really, really great example of when you add passion and a story to something, people will pick up your pitch, right? So let me just share this really quick so you guys can see this example. It's only about a minute. Oh, and it's on mute. There we go.
Excuse me? Who is Don Draper?
What do men say when you ask that?
Well, they usually take a minute to think about it, and then they do something cute. One creative director said he was a lion tamer.
I don't want to do that. The third person?
I don't know. Knockout wife, 2 kids, house in Westchester. Take the train. Maybe you take your car, now that you can afford it.
Who told you that?
Anything? I mean, now's your chance.
Well, as I said before, I'm from the Midwest. You were taught that it's not polite to talk about yourself.
Obviously, your Glow Coat Floex commercials caused a bit of a squeal. On the creative side, anyway. What made you think of this idea?
I wanted it to be indistinguishable from the movies. I wanted people to be watching it and say, what's happening in the story right now? Oh, it's something else. It's not an ad. At least not for the first 30 seconds of it.
Very good, then. I think I have all I need.
Now watch this. This is completely different, this part. Watch the difference of how he actually tells the story.
There's always a name in every partnership that defines who they are. In the case of Sterling Cooper Draper Price, would you say that's Donald Draper?
Yes.
Really?
Last year, our agency was being swallowed whole. I realized I had 2 choices. I could die of boredom or holster up my guns. So I walked into Lane Price's office and I said, fire us. 2 days later, we were operating out of the hotel. Within a year, we had taken on 2 floors of the Time Life building.
Boom. Okay, so let's just go over that really quickly. Now, the difference, right? The difference in why I showed you, why I wanted to show you that example, was simply because the difference between that first clip and that second clip was like black and white. Seriously. The first time he was like I don't, it's not polite for me to tell you about myself, right? And the guy was like, all right, whatever. And the engagement on the second one, when he gets into the story, instantly that reporter's like, ooh, tell me more, right? I think it's a human reaction to be drawn in. I want you to even think about soap operas, right? I think soap operas are a really, really great example of storytelling. I know for me growing up, my mom always watched soap operas all the time. And I'm actually named after a soap opera star, little known fact. But we're drawn into storylines. We become attached to the storyline, to the characters. We feel like we know them, right? So when you're able to bring that into your business and bring a storyline, right? Not saying that you're being fake in your business or you're acting, but you're actually bringing in a storyline to your business. It's going to help people relate to you and form a bond with you. All right. So with that being said, let's continue on. Let me just screen share this again. There we go. Okay. So the power of stories. Humans have a very special way of retelling stories, okay? Humans used to have something called the evolutionary storytelling as a primary way of communicating and collecting info. Now, I found this so super interesting because I want you to think about before there was social media, before there were cell phones, before there was newspapers, right? Like really just bringing it back to like when there was no other form of communication. People used stories as a way of protecting other people. So if they were warning them about poisonous food or they found water or this person was invading them, right? People created stories that were then handed down to other villages, other people to warn them about these things. Even take it back to fairy tales, right? We all, for the majority of us, right, we're read story, like all these fairy tales and these storybooks growing up, and we grew attached. It was a way of messaging, right? It was a way of messaging to us about life, what we wanted, our desires. So the power of stories, as humans, we're wired to recall stories, right? We are wired to recall stories. When we're talking to our friends and we had something happen, oh my God, guess what happened? And you tell them the story, right? You're invested in it. It's a way of communicating to other people. So that's the power of stories, right? You're able to create that bond and that storytelling kind of feel of being like, tell me more. Okay, so goals of a successful brand story. Now, people want others to, and this gets broken down into a couple, right? They want you to inspire, challenge, educate, or get them emotionally charged, meaning like upset or angry. So your goal is to position yourself to your audience in one or in all of these categories. Okay, so thinking of it in when you're writing a story, just even taking at the brand part of it, right? Because obviously everything that you're going to be putting out on social media and on your website is going to be brand appropriate. But when you're writing something, you want it to fall into some or all of those categories. And think to yourself, what is the purpose of me writing this? Am I trying to inspire people? Do I want to challenge them, right? Am I trying to challenge them? Maybe educating them. Or maybe you're, like I said, getting them emotionally charged. I think that using the emotionally charged issue, especially when you have an opposite viewpoint of something, it gets people to notice. Now, you might get people who are upset. You might get people, if you're making it like a political post, right? If you're making it a political post, for example, like that's a very emotionally charged issue that people are going to get angry over or upset over. If you're trying to educate people on a story, maybe something that you went through, inspiring them, all of these things are somewhat of emotions, right? And that's what you want to position yourself, because that's how people look at you as an expert, when you're able to position yourself in one of those categories. Okay, so did I just skip one? No, it didn't. Okay, sorry. So the structure of a story. So I don't know if any of you have ever heard of the hero's journey, right? The hero's journey. So many movies use this structure, such as The Lion King, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, right? So this was actually broken down by this amazing guy called Nick Reese. He is phenomenal when it comes to storytelling and selling. And he actually broke down a 5-step format that's called the hero's journey, but it's for business, right? It's for business. And I really love this. I think this makes the way that he broke this down makes it really easy to structure your brand story, or structure really any type of selling that you're doing, or even just educating people. It's an easy way. But the hero's journey, I just want to touch base on that really quickly with the hero's journey, because usually how you kind of go through that, think about The Lion King, right? You have the beginning part, then you have the drama in the middle, right? And then the protagonist comes out on top. So let's just break down this 5-step format that's for the hero's journey, but for business. So this is called Journey to Success. And of course, this is by Nick Ries. Okay, so first, identity. Who were you when you started your journey? I really want you to think about this. Go through this. Start making your own journey to success right now as we're going through this. So identity, who were you when you started your journey? So for example, I could say, well, when I first started my journey, I was super, super insecure with who I was. I knew deep down inside that I had something in me, right? And that goes into turn against the status quo. What did you want to change about your prior identity / world? So the first part, identity, I was really, really insecure. I didn't like who I was. But turning into the second part, turn against the status quo, what did I want to change? Okay. I knew that I wanted to be more, confident. And I always knew that I had something deep down inside of me that said, oh my God, I'm meant for so much more, right? I wanted to change my insecurity. I knew deep down inside that I was meant to inspire women, right? Going into the struggle, right? Number 3, what did you do? What did you struggle against as you started to create change? I struggled with losing friends. I struggled with my family not believing in me when I said I wanted to start a business. They wanted me to get a regular 9-to-5 job, and I just wasn't about that life. So I really, really struggled with my family supporting me. Then we go into 4, insight. What unique tool or insight did you gain that made overcoming this challenge easier? I met my past business partner and my boyfriend during this time, and he really, really helped me realize, hey, you can do this. And he kind of guided, because he owned a business before, he kind of guided me into believing like, you can do this. Here are the tools to do this. I'm going to help you. Right. And then I met so many other mentors and so many great conferences that really, really, really gave me the confidence and the tools to say, you know what, I know my parents don't believe in this dream, and I know society doesn't believe in this dream, but I'm going to do it anyway because I have people around me who are going to help me. And then resolution, who are you today and who do you serve? Well, today I am a successful business owner who has owned and operated over 3 businesses, and I'm a social media and branding strategist who helps female entrepreneurs find the power in being themselves in their business, right? So when you look at this is great for like an about me page. This is a great way to kind of break down and create a story through your past. So an example, right? And this is taken from, once again, from Nick Ries. And I love this example that he gives. So I'll just read it out loud for you guys, right? So this is a brand story. And we kind of broke this down just before, but I'm going to go through it again. So this is his. As a lowly marketing coordinator at a luxury real estate firm making $10 an hour, I was broke and hopeless. Identity, right? That's 1. After a particular rough day, I decided that there had to be a better way to make money and have an impact in the world. That's 2. At work, I was insanely frustrated with how bad most realtors' email marketing was, so I decided to make a better way. Boom, struggle. Then one day, I was daydreaming about work and had a brilliant insight that allowed me to create a better way for realtors to market properties via email. Insight. Today, I use the new way of marketing properties to help realtors sell homes 58% quicker. The results are outstanding. Resolution. So look at how he kind of broke that down, right? You really get a good sense of, once again, what he was struggling with, who he was, and then the resolution at the end of it. Now, you'll see a lot of people now that you're actually looking at these examples being like, oh, wow, I know people who have done this. And this is just a really simple, broken down way that you could really just tighten up your brand story. So when someone says, hey, how did you get started with this? This is such an easy way to kind of just like spur it out. Now, here's an example for people if you have a product, right? Because the previous example was more like if you're a consultant or a coach or something like that. But let's look at like if you had a product, right? So Happy Puff Pastry is a small family-owned coffee shop just outside Atlanta, Georgia. Identity. Due to the pressures of large coffee chains like Starbucks and the economic downturn, Jane was desperate to find a new way to market her boutique coffee shop online. Jane tried spending time on Facebook and Twitter, but just wasn't seeing any results. The struggle. And don't we all know that struggle, right? The struggle is so real on that. So real on that. So one day, she discovered a simple strategy from this guy named Nicholas Reese called persuasive storytelling. She decided to give it a try, and just after a few weeks of implementing in her business, Happy Puff Pastry is now more profitable and busier than ever. Right? So you can identify with that. You can see the insight and you could see the resolution. But here's the thing. Selling through storytelling allows people to connect with you and trust you with you, not even having to pitch to them sometimes. So an example of this, and I love this example, is the Top Gun, right? Top Gun, the movie. Actually, let me just stop this really quick. So I want to talk about actually Top Gun, right? Because I think it's really funny, and Top Gun is just an example, but thinking about whether it's Top Gun, whether it's like music videos, artists, whatever, what was so special about Top Gun was, if you remember correctly, Tom Cruise was always wearing aviators, and aviators after that movie shot through the roof. People were signing up to be in the service. I actually saw a stat saying that they set up like people who wanted to be in the Air Force, like recruitment within the movie theaters at Top Gun, like Top Gun viewings, because people were that amped up. Now, in that movie, no one was selling, like no one in that movie, if you remember watching that movie, ever said like, hey, come join the Air Force, or hey, come buy aviators, right? No one did that, but it was that feeling, right? You created an emotion, you identified, and you said, hey, I want to be like that. So if I buy those aviators, I'm going to be like that. So I want you to think about that in your business, right? How can you create that emotion where people are like, hey, I want my business to be like that. Or, hey, I love her attitude. I want to be like that. There's such power without even pitching, right? There's such power without even pitching when you're actually just so within your brand and you know what you stand for and you're so clear on that. People are just going to buy into you with your stories without you even pitching. So what I actually want to show you really quickly is Nike is, I believe, the top dog when it comes to selling through storytelling, right? You'll never see Nike actually make a ad on, hey, buy these shoes, right? You will not see that. They sell through storytelling. So I'm going to show you another a really great example through Nike that is just phenomenal here. It's only a minute. Let's just screen share. All right.
You're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to get out of your neighborhood. You're not supposed to believe you can do it. Yeah, you were told you were going to be one of the greats. They told so many others the same thing. You're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to pass the ball so much. Or play like a giant. No matter what. You're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to play 40 minutes and make up 40 feet and make a defensive play. A defining moment in your career. You're not even supposed to be here. And yet, here you are.
Boom. I just love that commercial, that story so much. So look at that, right? It had a beginning, a middle, and an end, but it made you feel something, right? It made you feel something. So I want you to think about your business, right? Your business, and I don't care what you do, every single type of business can identify with a story. There's always a struggle within us, right? Whether this means that you're writing it down or whether this means that you are doing this through video, correct? Right? You can identify and break this down just like Nike just did, right? Maybe you don't have all the bells and whistles, but you're able to tell a story. I love that video so much. It's so good. But once again, remembering, right? Like, they did not pitch during that. There was no pitching. You didn't even see Nike sneakers. There was no Nike products in there. They're literally just telling you a story to identify with. You identify with that. As a business owner, I'm like, yes. I wasn't supposed to be here. People have let me down. People have told me no. Yet I still conquer, and I'm still here, and I'm still doing great, right? Everyone can identify with that story. So it's finding that thin point, right? Your story, and then what your ideal client's story is, and bringing that together. What is going to make that person say, hey, I went through that? We're almost there, guys. Stick with me. Stick with me. Okay, so here are 3 more examples of storytelling. 3 more examples of storytelling, right? Another personal story. We kind of just went through this, but it's walking people step by step through a painful problem that you had, okay? So just say, for instance, if you sell an ebook on how to get rid of a painful urinary tract infection, you would tell the story about how all the pain the UTI caused you, including what it was like, how nothing gave you relief, and the embarrassment and humiliation. And then you segue into how you figured out how to get rid of that infection and how you wrote a solution down in a short, easy to read ebook, right? You're going to walk them through the worst parts of the problem, the exact pain points your ideal client is experiencing, and then tell them how to solve it. So think about it in the terms of the Nike ad that we just watched, right? So the struggle, right? The painful problem that these people have is that people always told you no, that you shouldn't be here, you shouldn't be here, you shouldn't be here, right? But then you said to yourself, no, I am going to be here. I do belong. I'm going to work hard, right? And then the solution, it's not that Nike is the solution, right? If you put Nike sneakers on, all of a sudden you're going to be like LeBron James, right? But they're segueing, they're pushing you to believe, to get the feeling of, oh my God, he did it, right? He's in the NBA. He's super successful. He wears Nike. So you know what? I'm going to wear Nike because I came from nothing and now I'm here. Yeah. So I want you to look at it in that respect, because that's exactly what that Nike commercial just did. The personal story is the most used example of storytelling and the most powerful. The historical story, I think that this is one of the most interesting, to be honest with you. So this is very, very persuasive, and this makes people buy something that they would usually ignore. And once again, this is just kind of just switching to make something seem, I'm going to say, quote unquote, sexier, but I mean like more appealing. So this is an example from copyblogger.com, and I just thought it was a really great example of like a historical story. So he goes, once upon a time, I had to write an ad selling a grappling DVD. So that's like wrestling, right? And he had to sell it to adult men who hate the thought of having to sweat and roll around in like a dirty, like they have the wraps and all of that stuff. They wanted the instant tough guy, push button ninja solution, or self-defense. So he had to make grappling sound sexy and cool. So what did he do? Nothing earth-shattering, just some research online, right? And found certain people use grappling and wrestling in ancient Roman coliseums to fight lions, barehanded, which is so interesting. I also read how ancient samurais used to terrorize Westerners in battle with their bizarre way of fighting. Okay, so suddenly grappling went from something that seemed dirty and sweaty to something exciting and fun. So you're able to take something that maybe seemed like, ugh, who would buy that? And then you turn it into something sounding really sexy and cool. I think the best example for this, guys, for those of you who are watching, maybe if you're a VA, right? Think about it in a virtual assistant type of thing. When it comes to like answering emails or when it comes to Facebook ads, how is a way that you can make that sound sexier and cool? Maybe you're coming up with a group program to help people with that, to help with a Facebook ad or something of that sort. How can you make it sound sexier and cool to get them to buy it? Right? To get them to buy it. So they're like, oh, wow, that sounds so cool. I want to do that. Right? Giving that historical background is just like the key to make people to be like, oh, wow. Yeah, right. That's a great example of how like all of a sudden Romans are doing it. Men are like, oh yeah, Romans strong. And then they want to be a part of it and they want to buy it. It changes their perspective and their psychology around what you are selling. Okay, last one is meet the guru. So this gives more credibility than the personal story, and you guys have definitely seen this throughout, the online world. But think about it in terms of it's a rite of passage, right? The guru passed it to you, and you're passing it to your client. So there's really no example because it really is that simple. Let's just say I had trouble figuring out my business, right? But I met Marie Forleo and she was like, girlfriend, you need to learn X, Y, and Z. I'm going to show you exactly how to do this. And I'm like, oh my God, Marie, I love you so much. You're so awesome. And then I share it with everyone else. It gives you instant credibility, right? It gives you instant credibility because that person is an expert in their field. So what I'm not saying is, go message Marie Forleo or Tony Robbins and be like, hey, oh my God, teach me something, right? But once again, taking it back into psychology, this is when you go on people's websites and they have pictures with Oprah or pictures with Sarah Blakely from Spanx or pictures with Tony Robbins, right? This gives instant credibility, right? It makes people trust them. So maybe a better approach to this, if you're first starting out and working your way up, find someone who's a little bit ahead of you, right? Or maybe bigger in your field and reach out to them. Take a program of theirs. Obviously ask permission first before you use their name, but even just dropping in hints, right? Like, for instance, here's another example. Like, a lot of you know that I love Gary Vaynerchuk, right? Now, I've never met Gary Vaynerchuk before. He's never personally met me and mentored me. However, I have learned an enormous amount from him. So I could say, hey, I had a problem of caring what people said about me. And I watched this Gary Vaynerchuk video and it totally blew my mind. And today I want to break down what I saw. Now, I'm not faking the funk and saying that Gary Vaynerchuk personally coached me, but just putting my name next to Gary Vaynerchuk's name, I know this is going to sound super crazy, but it actually forms a trust factor within your audience. Right? People are going to bond to that. They're going to be like, oh my God, I love Gary Vaynerchuk too. Oh my God, that really helped me too. So it's a way to kind of form that bond. Meet the Guru is like I said, a really great way to gain more credibility than a personal story. So let's break this down. How can I do this with social media? So this is the big question, right? This is the big question. So with Facebook, let me actually turn this around so you guys can see me. So with Facebook, right? Option one would be written posts. Now, here's the thing. I'm fully aware that some of you are not comfortable with video yet, and we're going to break that down in a second. So I'm going to give both examples with written posts and with videos. So if you're doing a written post, obviously if you're going to do a story, it's going to be a little bit longer of a post, right? You don't have to put vulnerability posts up top. Like, you don't have to give permission to tell a story, right? So that's the first thing. So once again, breaking it down, you want to make sure when you're telling a story, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. I'm going to repeat that again, that there is a beginning, middle, and an end. So you're going to start off, like we just talked about before, with the problem. What are you struggling with? Then you're going to look at kind of the challenges that you went through, how you kind of like broke those challenges down, fighting through, right? Fighting through. And then the last part is the solution. How did you get there? Now, I will say this. I think the problem that a lot of people make, right? A lot of people make is that too many times they tell a really, really great story and they right hook or they sell too quickly, right? So if you're telling this really, really, really dramatic story, sad story, and then at the end, if you're like, if you feel this way too, buy my ebook. Now, for me, that works sometimes. You want to look at these stories, right? When you're writing a post down like this, in a 50-50 type of way. Now, of course, what we just went over, you're going to be pitching, right? Some of these examples you're pitching at the end. But you want to make sure if it's a story about, I don't know, something super, super sad like miscarriage, right? There's nothing wrong with telling a story without pitching. Once again, what we talked about, think about the Top Gun example. There was no pitching in that. People just wanted to be a part of it, wanted to buy aviators because they identified, they wanted to be cool like that. So please do not be afraid, right? Please do not be afraid to just tell a story, to tell a story, to grow trust with your audience. Sell yourself, right? Sell yourself through storytelling. Now, once you do that, depending on the story, right? Then you could sell. I hope that I'm not confusing people, but I just want to make it clear that I think too many times we're just pushing. The value in storytelling through selling is that you don't have to make that push, right? You're getting people to fall in love with you through the story, that trust factor. So that's why I keep it at a 50-50 rate where 50% of the time, I'm really just telling a story to get you to bond with me, to trust me. And then 50% of the other time, yes, I am going to pitch you at the end of it because, we're in business and we have to make money. But it's being aware of those two differences and not falling into one or the other 100% of the time. Okay. So remembering, start, beginning, middle, and end. So looking into option 2, video and Facebook Live. Now, for me, this is my favorite way of selling is through video. Now, when you're looking at a Facebook Live, right? And if you want to be on, let's just not even talk about like selling through Facebook Live, but let's just talk about like Facebook Live in general. You want to break it down. I like to call it the Facebook Live sandwich, right? So you have the bun, and that's introducing yourself. That's the beginning, right? So it's telling people who you are, what you're talking about today, giving them some action steps. So you're going to tell them, hey, share this. Hey, if you're new, let me know where you're coming from. And what your name is, and share it, subscribe. So you're giving them action steps in the very beginning, and you're letting them know what this live is about, who you are, and what they can expect from it. Then you're going to go into the meat, right? And that's the breakdown. Whether you're educating, inspiring, you're breaking it down. 4 ways to do this, 3 ways to do this, how I struggled with this, right? So that's the meat. That's the major part. And then you have the last bun, right? The ending. And that, once again, is giving action steps, right? Share this, subscribe here, and then it's giving them what you want them to do after. So giving them a preview of what's coming. Maybe that's saying, hey, join me on live tomorrow, or hey, subscribe for this, or hey, if you want to be part of my webinar, sign up here, right? It's giving them an action. I love using the example of the Facebook Live sandwich because it just visually gives you an example of like how to break it down, right? How to break it down. Remember, it's always a beginning, a middle, and an end. Beginning, middle, and an end. Okay, so remembering too that when it comes to Facebook Lives, don't fall into the trap of like going on Facebook Live, especially if you're going to sell something. But for just to sake right now, let's just stick to storytelling, and we're not even selling anything. The longer you're on Facebook Live, the better. Don't go on Facebook Live for a minute, right? Don't go on and be like, hey, what's going on? I just want to pop on and say hi. Like, you want it to be at least 15 minutes. And I'm going to tell you why, right? I'm going to tell you why, especially when it comes to storytelling. Make sure, because people get notifications not very quickly, people are going to pop in and out of your Facebook Live. So the longer that you're on, the minimum of 15 minutes, the more views you're going to get, the more people are going to see it, right? So if you're telling a story, remember, especially with this, beginning, middle, and end, break it down in that way. You have your introduction, you have your breakdown in bullets, right? Your meat, the breakdown in bullets, and then you have your ending, the last bun, and you put it together for a delicious Facebook Live sandwich. And then same thing with video, right? If you're doing pre-recorded, what I love with storytelling is that I'm able to look at the pain points of what people are going through, and make that into a story. So I recently did a video on selling, about how people struggle with selling. And I tapped into what people say to themselves when they're about to sell, when they're like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. Oh my God, this isn't good enough. Oh my God, Mercury retrograde, right? I pinned down all of those pain points and made it into a story. I had the beginning part, right? Freaking out. And then I had the middle part where I was really identifying with the reader, not the reader, the viewer, saying, do you feel this way? Like, honestly, like, have you ever felt this way before? And then looking at the end, right, closing it with, here's the solution, right? So you're introducing, you're causing the problem, and then you're causing the solution, okay? So let's think about Instagram. Let's break it down into Instagram as well, how we can do this in Instagram. I think Instagram stories is a fantastic way in showing how to storytell. Now, here's the thing with Instagram stories, right? When it comes to storytelling through Instagram stories, is that it doesn't have to be, you want to think about it like almost like a movie. Once again, keeping that beginning, middle, and an end. Let's say that you're going on a trip to France, right? Just taking like random pictures throughout the day is cool, but people want to identify and see into that story. So maybe you're going to take them to the beginning of the day when you're going into the airport, right? And you're like, I'm so excited. And then you're walking into the airplane, right? That's the second story. Then you're getting off the airplane and you're meeting your boyfriend in France. And you're like, oh my God. Then you go on a tour, right? And you're checking out all these cool places. And then at the end is when you're walking home into your beautiful Airbnb villa, right? That's the end. There's a beginning, you walked onto the plane, a middle, you're sightseeing, the end, you're walking in, right? If you're doing a launch, I think when you're doing a launch, this is a great opportunity, guys, if you're launching something, to use storytelling. And now that Facebook has like the story option on it, you could also do this for here too. So it's showing people the initial, let's say you want to launch a Facebook Live program, right? You want to show people into that day because those stories only last 24 hours. So let's say you're launching something. The beginning, right? Your first story, you're like, you actually see, maybe you're actually talking to this could be really cool. Let's say you're doing a Zoom with someone, right? Take notes on this. This is going to be good. Say you're doing a Zoom with a client, right? And they actually say like, I hate Facebook Live. I don't understand it. Please help, right? And obviously ask your client if it's okay if you could take a like an Instagram story of this, but like that could be your initial like, or maybe you're taking a picture of someone's face like, do you feel, and you could write caption, do you feel this way when you go on Facebook Live or Instagram Live and the person's like, right? Problem. Then you're going to break it down into showing them into your launch. Maybe it's showing them behind the scenes of creating your slides. Maybe it is having a meeting with a business partner. Maybe it's you grabbing coffee and being like, in the middle of this launch, right? So it's showing them, that was a really attractive face. That's showing them that meat part, right? Remember, the bun, right? The issue, the issue. Then you're getting to the meat. How are you going to break this down? So it's showing them the behind the scenes, right? The behind the scenes, the slides, the work, the coffee, the meetings. And then you're going to show them the end. And that's you finishing this course. Now, I'll tell you this. With Instagram stories, with Facebook stories, they only last 24 hours. So this would be something that obviously you would have to plan out in a 24-hour span, because it would not make sense if you can't do this over a month, right? Like, people are going to forget because it disappears. But that could be a really great example for a 24-hour kind of like insider look on telling a story through a launch. Okay. So in all, storytelling is a super, super powerful way to create a bond, right, with your audience. It's going to help them say, oh my God, I'm going through that too, or oh my God, this is a behind the scenes look. It's so powerful, and you should always be thinking about your story, how people are feeling about this, and how can I implement this into my business, into my own brand story. So with that being said, guys, that is the slides. So I know you guys probably have questions. I can't see the chat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the broadcast, and I'm going to hop over into the Facebook group, the Pebble Rebel Masterclass, and I'm going to go on Facebook Live on there, and you guys can ask me any questions. So I'm going to end this, and we're going to do like a quick 10-minute Q&A. All right. So I will see you guys over in the Facebook group. Love you guys.